So my unit was about using decomposition in Scratch, and I had students create a chase game using a basic tutorial. Most of the students have never used Scratch before. They've been working in App Lab this year, and this was the purpose. So I wanted them to work with decomposition to see how to take a bigger problem and break it into smaller pieces and use loops and collaboration and just their creativity to make this game. So what I did was first had them make the chase game, and then to assess that they were able to do things in Scratch. These were my two assessments, and then I'll show the student examples. So one of the things I did was create a debug it activity where I made a chase game that doesn't really work right. Like the spider doesn't move up and down, and you can't hear it, but there's a noise being made that's not supposed to work, and the score doesn't increase the way it's supposed to. So they had to fix that. All of the students were able to fix that without issue. Some of them were working together. If they got stuck, they would ask each other, but for the most part, there were no issues with that. And then at the end, we did a quizzes game, which has 28 questions in it. And they're just general things about how Scratch works, like how do you get, there was here, looking at a picture and determining where do you get the sprites and where do you go to get the backgrounds and just how to find various things. So just really general questions about Scratch. And there were really no difficulties with this either. The students scored very well on this. So that was a nice assessment. I was able to tell that they understood what we were doing there. I have 3 student examples here. The first one is a struggling student. He has really had a hard time all year long. He's absent a lot. He does have an IEP. I spend a lot of one-on-one time with him. So to transition from App Lab, which he hasn't even gotten fully comfortable with, over to Scratch, which he's never seen before, he did have some difficulty. He wasn't able to really add too much to his game. I mean, you can see he never figured out how to reset the score or anything, but he was able to get the basics of getting his sprite to move around and chase the other sprite. Then I've got a student who has done a little bit better. He's a little bit more advanced. Now his game, at the point that he has put it into the studio, he'd actually changed it a bit. So he was able to get the chase game initially, and then he changed things. And one of the jigsaw activities was learning how to make it multiplayer. So you can see he's got a diamond here or a gem, I guess, that I can move with the arrows. But then he also added a player that can be moving at the same time, which uses letters to move. So he was able to add on a multiplayer element. And then for the underrepresented student, I picked one of the female students. She's a softball player, and she made this game where she's just chasing the ball, and the score, she called it tags instead of scores. And I think if you get 10 tags, you win the game. So let's see if we can win this game. 9, 10. There we go. 1, and then she had added in how to make the cat say something, which wasn't in the initial activity. So overall, I was pretty pleased with how the entire unit went. I think the most difficult part was the time of year. If I took this class in the fall and did this whole unit in the fall, I think that it would have been a lot better. I'd like to do this again because I liked this activity, and I think I will do it again next year, but I will do it before we start any kind of programming. This will be like the first thing we do, and I think it'll go very well. And that was my project, my unit.